It was like Nick Jonas or one of the Jonas Brothers was the first guy to see like what athletic training looked like. And he was like, yo, I need to do that. I'm getting ready for a film. A lot of people get it twisted where it's like a six pack and just being jacked is the answer, when it's like, that's so far from the truth.
Matt Blank is a buddy who is a celebrity trainer who I first met at Unbreakable gym that's in West Hollywood by Jay Glazer, a couple other people. Now owned by Zach.
That's right.
Yes. Was recently sold to Zachary Getz.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. And so it still has the whole same philosophy.
That's so interesting. Huh?
So we originally met, and I know you've got some, A-list clientele and a lot of professional athletes and things like that. I wanted to start off, Matt, first of all, by saying, all right, give me your background. How did you get to the spot you're in now, becoming a trainer, coming to Los Angeles? As you'll discover by the accent, is not native to Los Angeles, but kind of the philosophy of where you're going. For sure.
Long way from Mississippi. I've lost a little bit of the accent, but not fully. So to kind of sum this up in like 60 seconds or less, you could say is I've always been like a big dreamer. And again, as you guys will learn, I guess we should start off by saying like the 923 life, like my company, 923 is based off my favorite Bible verse, which is anything can be done for the one who dares to believe. That's Mark 923. And so just being this kid from Mississippi, I've always had this vision to try and accomplish big things, right? And so again, there's not really that many famous people or people of like higher status in Mississippi, right? And so I knew that I was going to have to roll the dice to come out here. And so I did that. My uncle was actually the strength coach for the New York Giants when they won both Super Bowls. And so
they need him back again.
Exactly. Yeah, they need him. He was a good resource for me to kind of see the way, I was a Division I college athlete, and I quickly realized the pros are not for me. And so the next best thing was to get really smart so I could train these pros. And so I thought I was going to go the strength coach route and really try to follow his footsteps. I kind of had that in for the New York Giants.
Sure.
And so I did my internships, got really smart in this field, and I quickly learned that a lot of those players don't really enjoy being at the facility because it's like work. They have this like anger towards their coach, like do this, do that. And so I was like, man, like when I'm interning and working with these guys, they kind of complain about their coach. That's anyone, their boss or anything like that. So
except for our employees.
Exactly, except for this place. And so I learned about doing it on your own in the private sector. And so again, I had an internship where we eventually met. I was still a young buck, like 24 at the time. And so again, when I was working with these athletes, taking them through the workouts, I think it was like Nick Jonas or one of the Jonas Brothers was the first guy to see like what athletic training looked like. And he was like, yo, I need to do that. I'm getting ready for a film. And so I never even envisioned working with celebrities or just business owners and executives like that. And so it really started with athletes and then it spun into this. But to kind of like cap this all up, like I really just want to help people chase down the best version of themselves. And I think a lot of people get it twisted where it's like a six pack and just being jacked is the answer, when it's like, that's so far from the truth,
Sure. I love the fact that 923 and where it stems from, obviously I grew up with that as well. But the idea is the 923 life, your company, it's more than just this exercise routine. Kind of talk about the different pillars and how important each one is. And I see the interaction with Navy SEALs and all those kinds of things. Does that play a role in this?
For sure. The Navy SEAL thing was a fitness event, but there's a whole mindset to this kind of thing, right? And I think the first principle for me is like having faith in God. And again, it doesn't like, I believe obviously in Jesus Christ and stuff, but whatever you believe in, I think we all need to serve something bigger than ourselves, right? Okay. And so again, being a servant-based leader is something that's very important to me. I think, especially out here in LA, you have these business moguls and stuff, and they think they can do everything. And then when their business goes bad, they're completely done. And it's like, that's all they had going for them. So I think we need something to serve and humble us and also guide us too. So I think that's a big pillar for me. And again, being a purpose-driven leader, right? Like, what's your purpose in life? It can't just be to have a six-pack and big arms, right? It can't just be to be a good doctor. There's got to be a little bit more. You want to have an impact. And so that's been a really good one. And then there's the obvious kind of like mindset, nutrition, recovery. And so those are my real big pillars. But I think what separates what I do is kind of having those other aspects outside of just health and nutrition,
Sure. So let's deconstruct each one of those let's go to firstly the one that everybody's looking for, right? Everyone, although it may not be your main goal, but a lot of people do want a six-pack. There is definitely more that goes into it. It's more than just the exercise routine. But if we look at what exercise routines are out there, because there are thousands, right? Where do you generally start? Let's take it someone like not dissimilar to myself. Let's say you got someone who's 50 years old, is a dad of 3, who wants to stay active. Where do you start with them?
For sure. I think my philosophy has always been do the simple things savagely well. I think Instagram can make it flashy. Like, again, just while on my way here, it's like you see guys deadlifting couches and doing backflips on Bosu balls, and it's like, that's cool for Instagram. But again, for the 50-year-old dad or literally anybody, that doesn't work. It just gets views, And so, again, the body has basic movement patterns. We can push something, we can pull something, we can squat something, we can lunge something, and we need to carry something, And so, again, is a pro athlete going to squat? Absolutely. Is Dr. Lakey going to squat? Absolutely. But the method might be a little bit different. And so I think that's where people really get this thing misconstructed, is they try to do too much, And that's always been my thing, is like, you guys can try all these other fitness programs out there, but when you're ready to do the basics, speaking of the Navy SEAL friends I have, their motto is be brilliant in the basics. And that's the same thing as do the simple things savagely well. It's like, do the basics and do them well, but it's hard because the barrier of entry for fitness is so low. Again, you guys are doctors, right? But for fitness trainers, you can take it high and become a PhD and get certified and do all these things. You can become the highest level certified strength coach, or I can pay $200, or I can just take my shirt off on Instagram and do steroids. And so it's like to find someone who, again, there's a lot of guys bigger than me, more jacked than me, but again, I feel pretty smart in this field. I can stand on business, as they're saying today, and like really speak and talk about it. But again, do the basics and do them well. And again, you don't have to train like the NFL player, but when you deconstruct it, you're going to do some pull-ups, he's going to do some pull-ups. You're going to do some rows, he's going to do some rows. You're going to do lunges, he's going to do lunges. And again, as you get older, maybe we don't do forward lunges because it's a lot more on the knee. So we do reverse lunges, which is a little bit more joint friendly. So again, that's where the expertise comes in destructing it. But these movement patterns, again, as a dad, you're going to lunge down to play with your kid. I want you to be really strong and confident when you do those things, You
made a really good point right there. And how you can understand what's actually going to be applied well for one type of person versus another. And you don't want to cause an injury. So when you have the expertise like you do, you can actually stay there and say, okay, that 50-year-old man, if he does forward lunges, he's going to bust his knee. And then I just did a major disservice to him. So I'm going to just switch it up and still get the same type of exercise and benefit. My wife likes to work out with as many personal trainers as you can imagine. So they come in and out of my house like they're nannies.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And it's funny because that's the one thing that I really take away from each one. Who can actually see your strengths and your weaknesses and where you shouldn't be pushed because it can actually be detrimental.
For sure.
So that's really important to have somebody that's going to train you, especially because it needs to be a long-term process, right? Can't just work out one day and feel like you're going to be jacked, right?
Exactly.
So it's a really good point.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because you were saying,
even though I'd like that.
Yeah, you were saying basically, to become very good at some of the core principles. And I think that's what I notice about a lot of your workout routines is efficiency is key, right? Going back to the, whatever, dad of multiple kids, you don't have 2 hours to spend at the gym every single day. So you got to stick to some of the basics. And what I love, I watch his page. And so you have the Instagram page for all the listeners and for the viewers out there is Matt Blank Fitness. And when you look at these, you have to see, he'll go through some of the core basics and strength, but then you'll have these killer finishers, which are like, you think are the most basic movements. I'll never forget, there was a workout you were training and we had already done squats, we had already done some lunges, we'd done some with bigger weights and things like that. And then you said, okay, it's Friday, so we're going to do something fun.
Oh, man.
It was not fun. You said all I have to do body weight was to do 200 lunges going back and forth.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Maybe it was even 100. I don't even think it was 200. I think it was 100. And it was body weight. So the first 20, you're like, my God, this is
piece
easy.
of cake, yeah.
I will tell you by 98, you want to die. But it's It's amazing because what you'll do is you'll take, it's after your core exercises, and then you'll say, these are just some fun finishers. It might not be 100, but it's amazing what can be done to get all that blood to force itself into the muscle, and you can really see some gains with that.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I think, again, the way I see this is like how you guys do any other surgery. Just take I think the few I know about, like a crow's feet or something. It's the same but different for every person, right? Like we all have the same thing, but each guy you might tune up a little different. And so no matter, again, being a 50-year-old dad, 40-year-old, 30-year-old, it's the same kind of principles and structures. Like, again, the squat variation, a pull variation, but it's just cut up a little bit different, And then, again, speaking with the finishers, it's a finisher for a reason, right? Like the way I structure it is strength is the foundation for everything. Strong does not break, right? So again, like your wife, if they just use a booty band, for instance, or if they just have no level of strength, that's when the body starts to break down. Because when we do things really strong and it strains our nervous system and our body, it forces the body to adapt, right? And there's a stimulus created, and that's where change occurs, right? And so how I start my workouts, again, the most easy way to try to put it is think of 3 different blocks. Block 1 is always your strength. That is, like probably 5 to 10 rep range. It could go a little lower with the athletes who really need to push it, but for the general population, 5 to 10 is a really good range. And that's, again, strength is our big compound movements. It's going to be like almost full body or multiple joints. That's your squats, your pull-up, your heavy rows. Then that second block is what we call secondary strength, or things that are going to complement that original block. So again, if we squat, that's on 2 legs. Again, let's try to make it a little more functional now. Let's go into a lunge pattern. Maybe we step up. Maybe we push a sled or something like that. So now we're going single leg strength, because what maybe I can't see because you're wearing pants on leg day because you skip so many is your right leg is compensating so much and your left leg's not getting that work. But when we do our lunges, that'll quickly get exposed, right? And then we go on to the finisher, which again is that body weight, just death by body weight or something, And so it's something that really complements, and it's more of that aesthetic purpose. Like again, on a shoulder day, it might be like a 4-move shoulder shocker or something that just really gets some blood into the muscle and gives you that aesthetic look too. Because at the end of the day, we all want the 6-pack, but I just want something inside to shine just as bright as the outside,
Understood.
It's interesting you say that, the aesthetic look. I just read somewhere the other day that one of the most important things to live long and healthy is strengthen your legs. It is as important as anything else. Meaning as we age, we get sarcopenia, like we lose muscle, right? But if we keep our legs very strong, it allows us to live longer and stronger. And one of the interesting things with my father, before he passed away, he would always try to get up from a seated position without using his hands. And he couldn't.
Yep.
And I keep watching different things at how important it is to be able to do those things. And it's interesting because a lot of the exercises you're talking about are exactly that. Building your legs without using your arms, or isolating muscles and not using other muscles to help those. When you do these workouts, because I know a lot of the, unbreakable stars that go in, they want to look jacked and they don't want to work on their legs. How do you break it up? How do you motivate somebody to really push their workouts so it's a total body workout?
For sure. I think, let me start off by saying, like your dad, for instance, 1, I'm sorry that he passed, but 2, it's like, I just came from before this morning at 7 a.m. I had a 70-year-old client. She squatted today. And what we did was we did a 5-pound. We went 5, 10, 15. She only had 3 sets of 10. And we squatted to a chair.
Perfect.
And you know what I mean? So it's different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Again, one of my standards for a different, like again, an older person, like 65 or older is, can you control yourself down to that chair?
Yes.
Like if I was to put an egg there, are you going to crack the egg? Or are you going to destroy it? I want you to crack it. I don't want you to just plop down. And so, again, just getting someone to ease into it, it might look a little different for everybody, but again, you want to sprinkle it in there, right? Like I'm not just going to kill you with 10 sets of 10 on squats, and I would never do that for anyone anyway. But again, my kind of thing is where I think a lot of trainers and, again, clients of mine, they think more volume is the answer to everything. And it's like, you're going to spend 3 hours in the gym, and I'm trying to teach you about intensity. So 3 sets of 8, really tough, That's all you need. But some people, it's like, dude, I need 5 sets of 10. And it's like, why don't you learn how to push yourself, right? So what I look for is the minimal effective dose. What is the least amount to get the biggest return? And that's how I try to sprinkle it in there. Now, over time, it might be a little bit more volume, right? But right when we start out, it might be 3 sets of 10 on a goblet squat. And come to me 3 months later, we might be on a back squat. We might be on a front squat, or we might be on a rear foot elevated squat. It's just wherever we want to go, you know? But again, most people they might throw you to the hardest thing to look cool. And it's like, I don't need you to look cool. This is going to work if you do it, right? And it might be the most simple thing, but stick with me for 90 days and watch what happens.
Amazing. I love it.
If we go back to those pillars, obviously, nutrition plays a big role. And how do you, obviously you place some serious emphasis on that. How do you guide some of your athletes or celebs or even just your transformative patients, especially with today's hectic lifestyle? What are the things you say, all right, I want you to avoid these things and I want you to add these things?
I think there's levels to nutrition. And I was trying to think about how I really want to explain this. And I think level 1 is just understanding calories, right? So you kind of have an idea. There's a million calculators out there. Figure out what your maintenance is. And even if you use a terrible calculator, measure yourself Monday in the morning right when you wake up. Follow those calories for 7 days. Reweigh yourself Monday. See what happened. Oh snap, I gained 2 pounds. That doesn't work. So let me just decrease 500 calories. Do it again for a week. And now you have this idea of like, oh, I actually lost 1 pound. This must be a good idea if I want to lose weight. So let me stay with this, right? And so again, I never want a client to lose more than 2 pounds a week, And again, if they're over 80, 100 pounds to lose, that's a different story, right? But for the average person losing like anywhere between 10 to 30 pounds, 2 pounds a week is great, and we might not lose that much muscle along the way, right? And so level 1 is just understanding calories. Level 2 is, okay, I understand the importance of whole foods. I understand my carbohydrates. They're really not bad for me. I understand my fats and how they help my brain. It's not something I should be scared of. Again, I need to not overdo it. And then proteins, of course, the building blocks. I need those for sure. And so level 2, I would say, is let's try to get processed food, most of it processed food, out of your diet and make 80% of your diet coming from whole foods. Level 3, that's where we get spicy. That's organic everything. I learned the difference between 100% grass-fed and not just grass-fed, because these are all marketing gimmicks. I understand the difference between pasture-raised eggs and factory farmed, just cage eggs, where 1,000 eggs or 1,000,000 chickens are in something the size of like a shoebox. And again, not to get graphic, but all their poop is just dropping down and those things eat it. And now you lose all the nutritional value. And so again, how far on the rabbit hole you want to go or where you're at in your journey, I think everyone should just start. Again, calories are what's going to move the needle, right? So you have to have this basic understanding of, what does it take me to stay at 200 pounds? What is my maintenance number for that? Let me try to find that. And then again, an easy way to start is like a third, 33, 33, 33. Proteins, carbs, and fats. And then you can go up and down from there, try to figure out what works for you. But it's not a bad starting spot. I tend to go higher on the protein, a little bit lower on the carbs, and higher in fat. I like my red meat. So again, getting a lean, good red meat is a good way to get some good animal fat.
You made reference to the fact on the quality of the meat, because obviously we know that, especially here in the US, we have destroyed our food source, right? Trying to get cattle to live longer, and you pump them full of hormones and antibiotics and things like that. And now we see disease states that are occurring, and, it's honestly very sad. And when you've got other countries that are banning a lot of the things that we do here, it should be a wake-up call for us, right? The seed oils and,
glyphosate, all of that. Yeah,
all these bad things. But I also noted that you made reference, when I follow you, that it's not necessarily the Paul Saladinos in the carnivore diet. It's not necessarily the Stephen Gundrys and the plant paradox, but it's kind of finding that balance.
I always say there's a couple things here. Eliminate nothing, modify everything. So I don't want you to just eliminate meat. I don't want you to eliminate like carbs. Just start, again, Paul Saladino is a great example of like a guy who went carnivore, had issues, and is now adding fruit to his diet, And so again, don't eliminate it, just modify it. Like, dude, you could be 90% carnivore, but have those fruits so you're not in a state of long-term ketosis, right? And so again, another thing that I usually try to look at when I'm working with a client, and this was coined by, this is not me, it's very clever, by a holistic doctor, on things to avoid, is the 4 white devils. And it's white processed sugar. Obviously, we know sugar is bad for you, but it's in everything. There is no nutritional value in sugar. It just spikes your blood sugar. And again, if you can avoid that and just make a swap for like honey or maple syrup or blackstrap molasses, anything like that, and get your cravings from fruit, you know. The second one is table salt. You know, I think it's 96% of all regular table salt is the same table salt or the same salt that they use on roads. Like, you know, think about snow. Oh, wow. And so it's stripped of all the nutritional value. And so again, when you eat a bag of chips, for instance, you know how you can eat the whole bag? It's so salty. Your body is like, where are the trace minerals in this salt? I want that. Yeah. And it's not there. So again, I use a company, I'm not sponsored or anything. It's called Redmond Real Salt. But what you really want great. Is, yeah, they're very good. Great. Unrefined, like sea salt or anything like that. I like the Redmonds because it's in America. And, you know, again, I don't know how true this is, but like most pink Himalayan sea salt, it's not from the sea. It's like dried up, and they had to use dynamite to get into the mine to get all that. So it's like, I don't want to be touching dynamite. Now, again, I'm sure there's good sources, but I know the Redmonds is legit. Yeah. The third one, this is very, like, you could say it's controversial or a hot topic. I know Paul would agree with me, like raw milk. It is so good for you. My kid my 1-year-old kids drinks it. But when you heat up pasteurized milk, you are literally stripping away all of the nutrients, and it actually takes your body more energy and effort to break down. Exactly. And so, again, if you have an issue with drinking raw milk, or you're scared of it, or it's banned by your state, just don't drink milk. Or maybe you try something like malk. Malk is literally 3 ingredients. It's almonds, sea salt, and water.
What about the A2 milk?
I like A2. A2 is not bad. It's still, pasteurized to a degree, but it's a lot better on the stomach. And so I think Alexandria does it very well. Yeah, they have a very, I think it's called vat pasteurized, which I don't know the process 100%, but it is less pasteurized, so you're getting some nutrients. And then the last one is white flour. Flour is very similar to sugar, up and down. It sends your blood sugar on a roller coaster. There is no nutritional value really. And so again, this is your cereals, your bread. Maybe try like Ezekiel bread. It's a sprouted or 100% whole grain. And so
it's hard to make pizza without flour, though.
It is very hard. It is very hard.
I'm just playing.
No, but that's like level 3. Yeah. This is how deep down the rabbit hole. And so again, as you go through this journey, just start with your calories, then try to get the processed food out, and then you can go down the rabbit hole that I just kind of took you on.
No, that's great. No, it's you simplify it so it makes it easier to understand. Yeah. For a lot of people, if you give people too many things to have to worry about, it's just too much. But if it's really simple.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like
the 4 white devils.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's very clever. Very clever.
Again, I'm going to say you follow Matt Blank Fitness because it kind of touches on all these different things. It even talks about, you had one post that was on all these fads on, different types of diets. Everybody's going straight keto or people are doing intermittent fasting or, I think you have to find what works for you, but it's more of that balance.
It's great that he's saying this because I've known him for 20 years and I'll be honest with you, I've never ever seen John on a diet. He eats properly. He's always in good shape and he works out, but he's never on any type of fad. Which is amazing because it goes to show you a lot of people can't control it. He's like, eat properly, don't eat too much, have what you need to have. But he still eats, he would eat a pizza a day when we were in residency. And he's still good. So it makes sense.
Yeah, that's fat where it comes down to, why do I have to put a label on something? Do I have to do CrossFit? Do I have to do HIIT training?
Right.
Why can't I just work out and strength train, And
Agreed.
Why can't I just eat good in moderation?
Now, with that said, what is the absolute minimum number of days someone should work out to keep their body in shape?
That's a great question. And again, I think it depends on the individual and the goal. Again, like my 70-year-old client is probably only going to work out 2 times a week. And then I have her walk for 30 to 60 minutes on the other day, to maintain some level of strength and not be sore and really be active. I have another friend who's a competitive downhill mountain biker, which is just nuts. He's only strength training 2 times a week because that's really all he needs for his level of fitness to be on a bike, which is more aerobic, But I love 3 or 4 times a week for the average guy or girl who wants some form of muscle to be fit, healthy, and really going for a longevity standpoint. And then, but that doesn't absolve you from not doing anything on those off days. You know, I think there's got to be something like, one of the things I call it is a daily non-negotiable. And it's like, dude, that for me, that's 10,000 steps, you know? And if I didn't get my 10,000 steps, say I'm traveling or something and my day was just shot, let me just do 100 push-ups to get like a small win and check a box, you know? And so I think everyone should have a daily non-negotiable, but a minimum of 2 days in the gym lifting weights or strength training. And again, if you're a Pilates girl or yoga bro, whatever you want to do, you can do those things, but there needs to be, it all comes back to strength, right? Yeah. Strength is the foundation for everything.
It was interesting. I read Peter Attia's book, and it talks about that, where they're literally the couple of things that you look for. One is grip strength.
Yep.
As far as aging, because you want to be able, he was saying something like, if you wanted to be able to carry 4 bags of groceries in your hands at 90, at 40, you would have to be able to carry 55-pound weights in each arm, right? And it's these things you don't think about, functional activities of daily living, when if you want to prepare to live better when you're older, these are things that you have to do now.
And it prepares you. And again, this goes back to those functional movement patterns, you know, push something, pull something, hinge, squat, carry, right? Carry is a very basic one. You can do your suitcase carry, how you would think one, that's very good for your core. But again, the farmer's carry, or the groceries, if you think about it, if I grab a barbell and do some rows, or I do some RDLs, or I do some heavy one-arm rows, that is all grip strength. And so the heavier I go on those dumbbells, the stronger my grip is going to be, you know? And so there's a pretty good saying that's like, you want to see how strong someone is, shake their hand. And it's like, dude, that dude is probably strong, you know? And there's like that country strong, and that dude just took my hand off. It's like he's moving hay and doing stuff all day. That dude's pretty damn strong, you know? And so grip strength is a really good indicator of that.
We were kind of hammering on those pillars, and I thought it was interesting. You started off right off the bat with how you came up with 923, and you had said that it was servant-based
leadership.
Servant-based leadership. And again, it doesn't matter how you were brought up, in what religion it is. It's having that larger purpose, you know, something greater than yourself that you kind of hold yourself to, that you tether yourself to. And it could be, you know, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, whatever it is, you know, and for those, even, I'm imagining even those non-believers that hold something, a bigger power, whether it's Mother Nature, whether you name it. But I do think that's important. I think that gives you a different perspective. It's almost like an accountability factor.
Yeah, I think we should all, again, just take the 10 commandments. It's a known thing. Not even knowing what the commandments are. If I follow these 10 principles and insert your religion, faith, belief, or whatever, I'm going to have a better life, right? But if I just go through like thinking I'm this big, bad hotshot that can do anything and nothing can take me down, what happens when it does take you down? Like, you don't have anything to fall back on. And for me, like, that Bible has been a basic pillar of like, dude, these are very basic instructions on how to live a good life. And again, I truly believe that like God made this earth and here's the playbook on have a good life. I'm just going to follow it. Again, whatever you believe, I just think we all need to have a higher purpose. And it's just, I'm the one man show. Everyone should bow down to me. And so again, the servant-based leadership is like, how can I use my platform to help others? You know, like something I try to say, and again, like I'm no influencer by any means, but I want to be the guy behind the scenes who kind of influences that one or two really big people. Again, like, yeah, I work with celebrities and stuff, but if I can be behind the scenes and put them in a position to be successful, they have a way bigger reach than me. And now they can have a bigger impact on the world, you know?
You said it perfectly, though. You know, it's like to understand that the Bible is really just an instruction booklet.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Basic. Yeah. Exactly what it is, you know? But people don't understand that. They think it's religion. And it really isn't. It's just this most... My grandfather told me that 40 years ago when I was a kid. He's like, this is because God thought that all of us weren't bright enough. And once things got a little more hectic, you need something to help you kind of guide your life.
For sure.
Problem is a lot of people, especially when they get too successful, they forget about it, like you said. Real quick, if somebody wants to work out with you, is it a gym or is it in their house? Do they come to you? How does this work? How's your fitness program? Because I know that with our podcast, people are always interested in kind of seeing the people that we interview. Tell us about it.
For sure. Yeah, there's two separate business models. I mean, there's the in-person here in Los Angeles where, again, most of my clients are this higher caliber where if they go into a gym, it's going to be like a paparazzi appearance, you know, and so we try to avoid that. But again, I do have my regular fair share of clients too that are just your everyday business people. And so most of my stuff is house calls. You know, again, it's saving time for these people too. So I'm in the car driving to them. They're working up until the point I get there. And then hopefully it's just the phone's off, 60 minutes with me, get a good sweat, right back to work, and I'm out, you know? And so again, I'll see like anywhere between like 4 to 6 people in a day just driving all over LA. And then you have the on-person model, which is like, again, I think I have, you know, over 150 like people that I'm working with one-on-one now. And so it's really just
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm going to need some help here shortly. And so again, taking your goal and just deconstructing it. If the end goal is here, we just work backwards, build a plan. I check in with you once a week. We have this big community aspect where every Wednesday we have a community call. And so you can see that it's okay to have your pizza. This guy messed up on a Tuesday night as well. It's okay. We're just going to get back on the horse and keep on going.
How would they get in touch with you? Let's say someone wants to join forces. Do they go to the website or do they message you on Instagram? How would you recommend?
For sure. I think Instagram is probably where I'm most active. And so just at Matt Blank Fit is probably the easiest way. I check my DMs pretty regularly, or the 923life.com. You can fill out an application on there and then I'll go through it and then we can get on a call and see if it's a good fit.
If you like this video, you're going to love this one.
You're not going to be able to copy and paste someone's regimen and think, oh, I'm going to look like that. I used to think that, but realized that it's not that.